たことだけど流れに逆らうだけの力がなくてだけど記憶の底から吹きつける風が叫んだ目をそらさずに歩き出すんだ胸の中すり抜ける思い出が今消えそうな明日を照らして引き金引くことだけが本当の強さではないからもう迷わずにこの道を行こう
Hello, and welcome to another episode of CRT Sound System. This week we have episode 64, and we're talking about Wild Arms 3, or Wild Arms Advanced Third if you're nasty. Here, as always, with Reese. Reese, how are you?
I'm great. I'm wonderful. How are you, Tom?
Delightful. Excellent, yeah. Really hyped to talk about this soundtrack in this game. So we've got a guest with us, returning from the was it the what episode did you join us for, Scott? I'm actually completely forgetting.
Oh, it was for East 3.
Oh, it was E3, yeah. Returning from the E3 episode is Scott. Scott, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, I think shortly after we did that Ease episode, we sort of mentioned Wild Arms 3 as being one that you wanted to do, and I'm a big fan of this game. I have been since it came out. But if you want to just, I suppose, talk a little bit about the game or the series, maybe your own sort of experiences with it, and we can go from there. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So I got the first Wild Arms, I think, pretty close to when it came out. I got a PlayStation early in its life, and
Mhm.
was very much a JRPG kid. And so was kind of chomping at the bit for something, and early in the PlayStation's life, Wild Arms was there. Um, the uh, the it's the thing that's always the music of the first game is actually like what has really always stuck with me, I think, about the whole series together as a whole. The intro from the first game, like that video is just like burned into my brain. Um, like I every most games when I play them, might watch the intro like once or twice or whatever, and then you skip it, whatever. I watched that intro every single time the game started. I would just watch it like just over and over and over again. It was like the absolute coolest thing in the world to me. Like as a kid, who was just like obsessed with these games, seeing like this, um, I mean, I was not exposed to like anime of any way, shape, or form, and so this, for those who haven't seen it, maybe it's like it's just like it's fully animated, um, like 90-second.
It's an anime intro. It's an anime OP.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah, but it's beautiful. The music is incredible. It's just like, yeah, but it's seared into my brain. And uh, ever since then, yeah, I mean, the Wild Arms series has always kind of been near and dear to me. It's not one that I tend to revisit super often, but like just find myself even still just like randomly just like we'll start just like whistling the theme like from the first Wild Arms game, and I'm like, I haven't played this game in like 20 years, but I'm just still just like can't stop whistling it. It's just something about it. It's
Yeah.
just lovely.
Yeah, it's a real comfort series like that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Reese, have you any experience with the series? I know you mentioned
No,
you played a little bit of 3. Go ahead, sorry.
I've always been aware of it,
Hmm.
but in sort of like, oh yeah, that's the Western Final Fantasy is kind of the place it occupied in my head as a teen. But I just never got around to it. There's so many JRPGs. Um, it's uh it's hard. It was hard to get a grasp on back then, and so it was just something that I was like, well, there's I have to play Xenogears if I'm gonna pop open a completely new one, and that's that sort of thing. So I don't know. So but I have played a little bit of Wild Arms 3 in preparation for this episode, and my goodness, it was so charming. The there's a lot of fun details. I really liked just the kind of very humble. There was this, hey, there's just this girl here riding the train. Maybe there's some more context if you played Wild Arms 1 and 2. I haven't. And so the sort of evolution from that into these very small prologues, where you just kind of like get a little short story from each character to get to know them. And there's stuff like when Abigail is like sneaking through the Goblin warehouse, teaching you that you need to press O to tiptoe so you don't fall through the floor. And there's a weird interactions with these tools that you can get, and you got to use a coin to save shit like that.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a lot of very charming details, and I don't know how it shakes out in the end game, but it was something I found very compelling.
The like play everyone's intro first and then they all meet is like kind of it's at least for like I haven't played past Wild Arms 3, but it's yeah, at least for 1, 2, and 3. I can't say for beyond that. But yeah, that's kind of like one of their that and like tools. It's like kind of the like yeah, the staples of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for myself, I did play the first game, but very late in the PlayStation's life. I mentioned on the Grand Stream Saga episode that I have a friend Justin who, if a game had an anime FMV in it, he was on it straight away. And he was also the kind of person who never finished any game he ever bought. So like, he lent me a copy of this of the first game just to try it out, and yeah, like that. I was immediately just sort of charmed by the intro, and um, it's probably the most memorable part of it to me now. Going back, it's sort of like a bit of a dodgy Lufia clone. I think is probably calling it, yeah, maybe a little, yeah, maybe a little harsh on it, but um, it's a solid little RPG. It's not too long. I don't think I finished it, but I probably put about 15 hours into it. So I saw sort of most of the game that way, and it's like 3. 3 has like really good dungeons, great music, and just that general sort of cozy feeling to it that I think is really emblematic of the whole series.
Lufia is good. If you're gonna copy the good stuff. That's my defense of Joker, 2019. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I was the dungeons they're paced really well. They're all pretty short.
Mm,
They sometimes it's easy to get like a little bit kind of turned around and a little bit sort of lost in there, but the puzzles are always like start off really easy and then you get to one that is just like it's frustrating enough until like you're just at the point of like, all right, god damn, I'm just gonna look this up, like, and then you're like, wait, let me try one more thing, and then like that's the thing that does it. Like I spent there's one I remember in particular where you're like, I was like trying to hit the switch with the boomerang because like you always hit these switches with the boomerang, and it looks like you're supposed to stand and like curve it around these steps, and like you can just you're just so close that like it looks like you can do it, and I'm just like trying it nonstop, and I'm like, this has to be how you do it, right? And I'm like getting really bothered. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna look it up. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I throw it and I'm like, I see that it hits the wall and drops, and I was like, it can't be to just like throw it at the wall above it and it fall. And yes, that's exactly what you do. You throw it at the wall above it, it like bonks and then like falls down and hits the switch. It's like, God damn it! Like stupid fucking game.
Yeah, it's cool. Like there's like you get the little tools throughout the game, and they all have their own little functions. It's very sort of Zelda-like in that way, I suppose. And it does. I do like that all the dungeons are quite small. Like very few of them will take you more than an hour to go through. Not including like boss fights for the longer boss fights, but like the dungeons themselves tend to be quite short, and it's all the better for it. I think really you just get these nice little just sort of they have a theme. Like certain types of puzzles will be present in different dungeons, and you solve those puzzles, and they maybe do different variations on those puzzles as you go through, but nothing will be too challenging. And but except for, as you said, there's one usually at the end then that will like that will just fucking annoy the shit out of you until you figure it out.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
one other little mechanic thing that is always very memorable to me about this, and I think it's like kind of all of them are also like this, that all of your resources for battling are essentially like contained to the battle. Like you basically start with like 0 or like 10 or whatever, whatever. But like you basically start with like 0 and the game's equivalent of like magic or mana points or whatever, and build it up over the course of the battle. So there's like you can just, if you have an ability, there's no penalty for like, oh, I need to like save up for. There's no saving up between battle to battle. Just like go all out. You just go all out every battle, basically, um, which has like a nice little. It removes like a bit of anxiety of like sometimes of like going through dungeon crawling and you're like 75% of the way through the dungeon and getting a little
Yeah.
stressed out, but yeah, it's not
And
really
like
an issue in
you
this game.
automatically heal after battles, but it's from a like a pool of life that you have,
Yeah.
which I think is a really cool feature because it's like you can also heal outside of battle or in
Yeah.
battle. So you have options, but there's also just like a really nice push and pull between all these different mechanics.
Yeah.
And then
There's
on
like
top of
ways to
that,
skip battles, and then
mm,
like yeah, and then
yeah,
you have like the vitality. It's like you usually will end up like fully healed after it, but it's like you can deplete that resource, but there's ways to refill it, and yeah,
yeah,
there's all these like little systems going on that
yeah.
make it.
And even just like because you're using guns, you have to reload, and that sort of plays into your strategies as well.
Yeah.
Because like each character has a different sort of loading capacity for their guns, and that affects sort of how often you can attack with them, and it's really good because you're constantly managing all these resources. And obviously, for most random battles, that's fine. You're just sort of shooting things until they
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
But when you get to your sort of mid bosses and bosses, then I think that's where the battle system really shines. And I think that's true of most good RPGs. Like the random battles are generally not going to be the most interesting part of it.
That's why you can skip them. I love that. I
Yeah,
was just like, you can't skip them all, buddy. But
yeah, it's a
if I'm
cool.
digging around the treasure room and I see that exclamation point, it's like, excuse me, doing
Yeah, I'm
something.
doing shit.
I'm busy. Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool feature because rather than just giving you the option to turn off battles entirely, it's like, okay, you can skip this one, but it does cost you, and there's
If you do it too
this
much,
is
then
limited.
Yeah, and then you could turn the
Yeah,
auto battler on too, where you're just like, but I do like the little message it gave me in the like tutorial. They're just like, but watch out, well, we might fuck you, like,
yeah. um,
um,
the
and
last. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
just that obviously I'm sort of um taking my understanding of these systems secondhand, but
mhm.
it's there's so many RPGs, and like you never know what you're getting into, especially kind of in this era. And sort of like sometimes you're just, is it going to be just turn based, you're hitting fight or something like that. And I seeing these little things pop up on such an older JRPG. It's not like it's unprecedented or anything, but it was a please clap moment, and I clapped.
Yeah. Yeah, the last little thing I wanted to mention. I remember you said this was also one of your the things you liked about the in the battle, just like the characters are like constantly just like running around. Like
Yeah.
the enemies are too, like everyone's just kind of like scurrying around somewhat like randomly as the battle's going on. And it's like really silly, except then when you get to the on horseback battles, and then it becomes like the coolest
It's
thing
so cool.
ever. Like
Oh my god, I'm pogging live pog here on the podcast right
like
now.
you have
I
you
did a
just like have
horseback
it like
battles.
you have like yeah the party's like riding like each on their own horse like in this like kind of separated group with like their guns out, and like the enemies are like running like on their feet like trying to keep
Yeah.
up like as you go and stuff, but like everyone's still
Yeah.
like moving around and shifting it, like it's kind of more organic when
Hmm.
they're on the horses than when they're all just like kind of like someone just like runs 50 feet and then just like does a 180 and just like runs back exactly the way they just came. Like, but
Yeah. And it
it
has no effect on the actual
oh yeah,
battles
no, it's purely
strategically or
visual.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
Well,
yeah.
I remember in the for the like the original, it was like a big selling point. I remember the like dynamic camera angles,
Yeah.
like from the combat or whatever, and it does these really goofy like what happens with the critical hits in this, where it does the like kind of like 3 frame like
Yeah.
zoom
The
in
little
thing or
split
whatever.
screen things. Yeah.
Yeah,
E-
it would, but
Even
in the original it would just be like it would like replay the same thing like 3 times, like doing like an instant replay almost like of like critical hits and stuff. And I'm just like, this is so goofy. Like this is purely a we did this because we could and there was no other reason. Like
well, I think it fits well because from what I have seen, because I don't know, especially just like the enemies running around stuff. It feels like Looney Tunes. Is we're having a serious nostalgia tinged adventure about loss, but there's also a goblin that goes gob gob. I'm hungry. And so I feel like these decisions that they've made create for like an instant vibe. It's like
oh
that's what I was
yeah.
struck for. It's just like it was like, okay, wow, what a great anime intro. What am I gonna get now? Oh, we're in this quiet train, sort of like that's cool. And sort of like, and just like every little bit, even to somebody who doesn't know Wild Arms, I felt like I immediately, it was just locked in crystal what this game was supposed to be.
Mm.
I'm not, maybe not how necessary, but how connected to the first two games is the third one? I heard it's kind of Final Fantasy like, and that you don't have to play the first ones. But I'd be curious in yours opinions as.
I one quick note I do have is it's also cell shaded, which is also very
Mm.
much part of the vibes. I think adds very much to
Yeah,
that.
for
It's a
sure.
beautiful game. Um, they're more connected than Final Fantasies, um, but but like very very largely independent.
Mhm.
There's a couple of like uh there's a couple of characters who make appearances across games. There's also like there's like kind of hints that in 1 and 3 seem to have like kind of a lot of connections. There's like some hints that one of the people in the Schrodinger family like knows Jack from the first game. I think they have like the same sword or something. And like he has some of the same moves that Jack does. Um, so there's like some through lines like that. The enemy Siegfried is like kind of is a recurring character
Mhm.
across multiple games. Um, the world Filgaia itself, but like there's like different world histories in each game, but then there's still like shared story elements across them. So it's like kind of connected, but not a requirement.
Mm. Yeah, there's no reason to play any of the other ones if you don't want to, but There's just little connections, and like a lot of stuff, like in Final Fantasy, item names and skills and stuff like that will sort of be generally consistent across the series. And like there's some like repeating songs and stuff like that, but it's not
Locations too, actually. Yeah, a couple of the dungeons in this game are from the first game. I don't think the layouts are anything the same, but like the
just
name
same
and
name.
vague appearance of them are the same.
So what I'm hearing is that the vibes are there's disparate stuff, but the vibes are very similar between 1 and 3 in the games. Like if you went from 2 to 3, you're gonna be like, oh damn, this is a Wild Arms game, and we're on the PS2 now. Look at this train go. You know that's kind of what I'm taking from this.
Yeah, and even stuff like how the intros work, where like every time you load up the game, you get this little anime intro.
And
That's consistent.
The 4 people prologue type thing, or multiple people prologue.
The first game's just 3 people because it's early PlayStation. They were not gonna push a 4-player party yet. But yeah, there's like lots of they let
structural sort of.
Yeah, there's also like they like across all the games they really like to like name things from like Norse mythology, I think is where I think a lot of the names are coming from.
There's a lot of standard JRPG. We just grabbed a fucking
and the concept of like
hodgepodge.
arms as guns is like a through line throughout the so yeah, there's like lots of shared elements across the games, but there's not like a running storyline or anything from across.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got that a bit where it's just like, oh, this is just some guy named Gallows, and I'm just like, oh, they're just browsing through the English Encyclopedia Britannica looking for cool words.
It's definitely like, I mean, it's the game is very much like, I mean, I think in some ways does give like somewhat of an insight of like a snapshot of Western culture to like foreigners. There's so many references to media properties in this game. It's insane. Like, just an absurd amount. Most of the characters' designs are like very heavily influenced, if not like straight taken from just a character from a movie or something like that.
And even the music itself, like there's a lot of references to spaghetti western soundtracks and stuff throughout these, with like the whistling stuff and all that in the first game is like fully from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's perfect for westerns, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The most shameless, just heist gang of a genre, in terms of using other things for its genre, for its stories. Why Wild Arms is perfect for that, and I'm sure it wasn't like quite as purposeful. I don't know how much they were like, we're gonna make an authentic western. They were probably just like, guns are cool.
No, it's very much seems to Virginia's dad looks exactly like Clint Eastwood from I think also The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Man that was name was a scientist. That's what I'm getting.
Maya Schrodinger throughout the game is just like is actually just like dressing up as like, or it's not, her character is so confusing. It's like a psychic projection or something, of like makes herself look like various people from like these books she reads. So like the first time she's literally like Calamity Jane when you first meet her, and then at another point she's like a witch, and then like it's like she's just like becoming people from like books that she's reading. It's really goofy.
Yeah. All right, so we'll jump into the first block of tracks, I reckon. So first track we have is Advanced Third, which is just the sort of the title screen music. Then we have Ready Lady Gunner, which is Virginia's theme / the main theme. Then we have From Dusk Till Dawn, which is Gallows theme. We have Night of Old Tales, and then we have Wild Bunch, which is the Janice's gang theme. And I have a note from Scott on that, which just says, "What the hell is this song?" So yeah, we'll jump into those, and we'll come back and talk a bit later. You're not wrong about that one, Scott. Anyway, it's definitely a bit of a weird.
It starts off um like just like a slow kind of like dungeon theme that you would be like in a cave, like some rock themed dungeon, and then like there's that part where it's just like heavy and slows down, and then like the vocals hit and
Just like a
it
jazzy
just
break
goes
out of it,
off the
and
rails. Yeah. And then
yeah, it's
like
funny.
yeah, then it has the weird like really like anxious ending too. It's just yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
it's an
goofy
odd one.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't really mention in the first section just Michiko Naruke, who is the composer for all of these. So she's done 1, 2, and 3, 4, and XF, and the remake of 1, and the mobile game. The only one she hasn't done in the series was 5. But like, yeah, it's like her sort of sound is so consistent and so good throughout the whole series. Like even the games that I haven't played or that I don't particularly like, always enjoy listening to the music. There's there's always something good to find in those. Um, and like, yeah, we discussed as well the sort of the spiritual successor that's coming out, Armed Fantasia, and she's doing the music for that. But she started off with Telenet. I just realized, which I didn't know before. So like she's done like soundtracks for Valis and Psycho Dream.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so like she's got a pedigree even outside of
Yeah.
Wild Arms as well. And to bring it back to last week's episode, she's done some arrangements for the Smash Brothers games as well.
Yeah.
So everybody's worked on the Smash Brothers games at some point, but it's always
Everybody's
nice to
here,
She
including Michiko Naruke.
she did
Yeah.
Bramble Brawl specifically.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So just that and the Ocarina of Time medley. So it's
Oh,
just very
excellent.
funny. It's just being like, yeah, I just did some Zelda shit, whatever. It's moving on.
NBD.
Yeah. No big deal. Yeah. One thing I wanted to go back to actually, what that you mentioned in the previous block, Scott, was the cell shading in the game. Like this is obviously at the time, cell shading was a bit of a it was a bit of a trend. There was a lot of games doing it, but I think this game is such a unique version of the cell shading in sort of it gives everything has this sort of parchment kind of look to it, like it's all been drawn on like a wanted poster.
Yeah.
It says like the first two games have that sort of very early PlayStation sort of sort of semi-polygonal style. There's not a lot of sort of great art direction to them, unfortunately. They're quite sort of standard. But like this game has a real look to it that I think really lets sort of brings you into the world in a great way. And like the later games of the series have just a very sort of flat shaded anime look to them. Whereas this one, yeah, I think there's such a texture to this to the way this game looks that is very unique to it.
Yeah. The first game has like what I often think of as like the Final Fantasy VII problem of
Yeah,
just like yeah, where like the characters and depending on like the different ways they're rendering them just look wildly
yeah,
different.
Hmm.
Where you have these like pretty I mean they're not that much more complicated really than like some Super Nintendo sprites, um, like for the overworld. And it's good, it's fine. Like you said, it's basic. There's nothing too crazy going on there. And then you get to the battles, and they go to these like really chibi style, uh, real low poly 3D models that are not super pleasant to look at, I would say. Um, the
no.
game
But every
definitely,
game had to have
yeah,
3D in those days, so
yeah,
like,
it really felt like it really. I mean, yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like it was like, oh my God, we can do this kind of thing. And at the time, I do remember being impressed with it.
No, absolutely. I remember being blown away by that. I'm just like, graphics just aren't gonna ever get any better than this, man. Just settle into
7
the future.
triangles, like
Exactly.
um,
I'm return with the V for 7 triangles.
um, but yeah, the 3 is yeah, it's like cell shaded, but everything has these like heavy like pencil style like strokes to it and shading. Like you see, yeah, like a wanted poster is really and I probably like what, very much what they were going for, um, based on, the entire Western motif. But it's aged so beautifully. Like I was playing it, like I have it on PS2, and I was playing it a bit like on the TV, on a CRT, and like it looks pretty nice. And I was even, but I was for some reason I was playing it on my Steam Deck as well, and it just looked gorgeous. Um, like without any like special like filters or shaders or anything. It just looked so good. Um, it's a style that just ages really, really well. I mean, sometimes the character models in the dungeons are definitely like a little stiff, um, and things move like on an axis and whatnot. But just the overall presentation, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous game.
Yeah, it's really aged very well. I've been playing it on the PS5 with the sort of the PS2 backward compatibility. They have like a couple of games on that, and yeah, it looks
Oh,
it looks
really?
gorgeous. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah,
play
yeah,
full.
it's on the PlayStation Store. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
might have to dust off that PS5 that I buried in the backyard after God of War 2. That's
yeah,
not true.
it's
No more bad dads.
Uh,
yeah.
um,
Uh, th-
the style is incredibly, I think, incredibly nuanced. For especially for the time, like the well drawn but kind of like faded character portraits on all the conversation boxes. Is I don't know. I was just kind of like I had to, since I playing the stuff I played was emulated. Some of the stuff I had to like double check a playthrough. It's like, okay, is this all emulating correctly? And it was, and I was just like, wow, this is just a great decision. To have this. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that the whole game is about nostalgia or whatever, but you have these like characters talking about their pasts and the future, and you're just like have this kind of like this aged, dusty quality to everything. It's already kind of like a western, and it felt really really poetic in a way that I think wouldn't necessarily hit today because it's just like, oh yeah, they just messed with the opacity. But but for that game, it feels specifically like, oh, they're kind of going for the a vibe.
a very
It's
particular
Yeah.
look. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean you're very onto. So I mean the game is like the sort of crux of the story is like what is like the real history of this world or whatever.
Hmm.
Like, we've been told fables, but everyone all anyone knows is fables. Like, why don't we have any written history? And so it was just like, what is the history of our world, and like what is our connection to it? Like each character kind of has their own pretty in-depth personal relationship to either um some driving force in like how the world got to be the way it is,
Yeah,
in
at the
its
end of
current state.
Abigail's storyline, she's just like, yeah, this is weird to see because I burned every other picture of my dad, and you're just like, holy shit. That not that I don't understand. I've certainly gotten rid of some photos myself at the dawn of my transition, but it's 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 a powerful little story beat where you're just like, oh, this is really gonna be about a lot more than just who this character is, but kind of like where they are in time, what the forces have been, and that made them this way. And I it's it seems that that is reflected in the music as well, because maybe that they're just doing Western pastiche stuff, and that's certainly in there. But it's sort of like the reason that works so well as music in general is it's because it does evoke that there's a sense of longing in the good, the bad, the ugly whistle, that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
that's sort of endemic to the Western genre as a whole.
Exactly.
That it's sort of like it is nostalgic by its nature. That every time you sort of step into a Western world, it's always sort of it's never an accurate representation of reality
yeah.
or anything,
Yeah,
but it's always
Romanticized is the word I was going to
yeah,
say. Yeah.
it's romanticized
1000%.
Yeah.
for sure.
And I mean and I think this game cranks that up like 10 times. Or the profession is drifter with a capital D.
Yeah.
Like that's what these people long to be. That it's like a known role is like, yeah, I'm a drifter. I go hunting for adventure, and like people have strong opinions and look on in adoration or confusion, I guess. But like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely a real like love and sort of like over amplification of like the typical sort of like Western like roles and stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that it's so effective just because it is just such a natural thing for people to do, is romanticize their past, because it kind of sucks to maybe imagine it as direct, totally as is. Like I watched True Grit super recently, and like so much of that is framed kind of by um Maddie, the girls, kind of like looking back at like who Rooster Cogburn was, and it's sort of like you just see like Jeff Daniels, no, the other guy, as Rooster Cogburn, just being like an absolute drunk, and just being sort of like all these kind of like objectively terrible things happening while she did something like really fucking stupid. But it's beautiful what this brought out in them. And I think that is perfect for a JRPG. Like I'm surprised we haven't had more Western games in this kind of style. Because I think it's weird because it's like the most overdone movie genre, but it's like it feels like kind of underdone for games, or at least underdone well. And usually they have to kind of like make it more post-apocalyptic, or it's not pulling from the genre as much. It's just like cowboy hats.
Yeah,
Well, even Wild Arms is very much a post-apocalyptic sort of series as well.
Well, yeah,
The
I
only
mean,
other-
I get that, but I just mean that sort of like I think about something where I guess I'm thinking about something like Lisa or something like that, where it's like there's notes, but in Fallout New Vegas, for example, there's notes of the West, but it's not trying to be a Western in the same way this is.
Yeah, I mean, but there's like the obvious answers of like Red Dead and stuff like that. But there's like Call of like Juarez, and then also thinking back more of like Rising Zan, which is
hmm
probably on the zanier side of things. But yeah, it's
Gun? I love Gun.
uh oh yeah, Gun, yeah. I mean, it's nice because it's like it's a lightly touched genre in video games. Like there's definitely a representation, but not an oversaturation. And pretty much most of the examples that I think of are like pretty solid. Sunset Riders.
So I just would say
Oh
Sunset
God,
Riders. Yeah, that's a banger.
a goat, absolute fucking goat. Bury me with my money.
What's the one that's? Oh fuck! It's another Super Nintendo game.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, it's Wild something or
What? It's just Wild Guns? No, it's not.
it might be Wild Guns actually.
Yeah,
It's
Wild
the one
Guns.
where it's
Yeah,
it is Wild Guns. Yeah.
yeah. The sort of like shooting gallery, sort of behind the
Yeah,
shoulder.
where you can like move
Nice.
left and right and also have a crosshair. Yeah.
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 Those are definitely the ones that I sort of remember playing as a kid. And yeah. But yeah, I think we'll jump on to the next block of tracks. Let me pull up my notes here. All right, so yeah, we've got the scenery called Every Day, which is the train station theme, and then when you realize the strength to sever these chains, then we have From Beyond. Some of these track titles get wild. From Beyond, a shadow cast by the fallen tree, they who hold the word of God, and despair when looking downwards, hope when looking upwards. Most of these, I think, are dungeon themes of various sorts. So, yeah.
That last one is so good. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
nice little selection of tracks there. The one I wanted to jump back to, and less for the music, but more just because I remembered these characters sort of when I was playing through just literally today, because I completely forgotten about them, is the They Who Hold the Word of God, which is the theme for the main villains of the game, who are these three people in weird robes. um, and they sort of show up mysteriously sort of halfway through the first chapter of the game. And like it turns out that it's fairly mundane. They're just like some dude. But they're all sort of part of this group of 7 scientists, of which your father, or Virginia's father, I should say, was also part of, and also like one of the other characters, his like surrogate father, was also part of this. So like everything seems to just go back to this group of scientists who are just trying to like I'm not sure what they were doing. I don't remember exactly, but they were just like trying to figure out what the like real history of the planet was or something like that. And they
Yeah.
accidentally like awakened a demon or something.
They were, if I remember correctly, they were trying to reverse the desert, or like
Oh,
that's what
okay.
that was the story, was that they were trying to um they were trying to like fix the desert or whatever, but it was actually like they screwed up, and instead of like rejuvenating the land, it like sucked all of the life out of it, which is why it's like the desert landscape. That this is like, sorry, it's like the big it's like kind of like the big twist of the game, or one of
Yeah,
the big twists of the game. That yeah, Virginia's father and like this group of scientists who everyone thought was like previously responsible for like yeah trying to discover the origins of the earth and like refreshing it, or actually what caused its current awful state.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They sort of show up in the middle of of sort of the first chapter, and yeah, they seem sort of like mysterious and mystical, but yeah, it just turns out they're just some dudes.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
they did well, it's confusing because like um so like there was like what happened, like it's yeah, so like the thing that they were doing, I think this is at Yggdrasil, like that's where like the fortress is and everything.
Yeah,
It was like accidentally sucking all of the like energy out of Filgaia instead of rejuvenating it, and then there was an explosion which apparently killed all of them, but not actually. Like I the 3 of them like refused to die or something like that, and like returned to their like that's there's like more of a story with that, where like one of them like was only obsessed with power, so like he returned to like this like kind of weak gangly kind of form, and then like this other one, she's like obsessed with beauty and she like got a whole new body and is like yeah, there's a
there's
I
a
need
whole
to
sort of
stop
be
because this is
careful
going to
what
go
you
on
wish
for
for.
this explanation is going to go on for a very long time, and I stop now. So yeah, but like they're apparently dead but not dead. So yeah, but like it's funny because yeah, it's like these shadowy and it's just like, oh, you guys are just scientists that died, and now you're like now you're like cosplay, like
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and then there's sort of like it all sort of ties into the final boss, which sort of yeah, it feels at times like a bit of an ass pull, but that's sort of I would say that's fairly common for RPGs of the time to
yeah.
just sort of yeah to just give this weird like ass pull of a final boss out of nowhere.
They
Um,
they do. She is actually like uh I mean it doesn't make it not any less of just like you thought there was one villain for 95% of the game, and then for the last 5% there's a new one. Um
yeah,
but
Well, they
like you do see her around, which is like really weird.
yeah,
Um like and there's the one in particular that I remember, like in this one town, you were going up to like, you can there's an arms shop that's like not super easy to get to. Like, you have to like open this door and like go out the back
Oh, at
of
the
this.
black market. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to like go through the building. You have to go into the building and then open the other door and then go through out the back. But I think when you try to go in there the first time, she like comes out as you're trying to go in and then just like walks off screen and just like
Huh.
disappears. And I
Interesting. I
remember
didn't
being like,
spot
"Wait,
that.
who's that?" And then like, "Oh, okay, that was weird. Like, never see this person again." And it's just like, "Yes, you will." like,
I never spotted that. I was literally there last night for the first time in the game, but I never spotted it. That's interesting. Yeah. Um. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention actually, just with regards to we sort of mentioned the train stations, like they're prominent enough through the game, but they're sort of they only sort of take you from one place to the next place in the plot. But part of sort of how you find them is through this system in the game that when you're on the world map, you press the square button, and it just sort of scans the surroundings for various things. And like mostly you'll find like towns, and also like sometimes you'll find some money or items, or like just a sign with a weird fucking a weird quote from some guy who's sort of in the lore of the series or something like that. Um, and it's a cool way to make world map exploration a bit more interesting. But sometimes if you're like really trying to find a place and sort of just spamming the square button trying to find it, and you're not entirely sure where it is, it can be a little bit frustrating.
it's it's a system that I'm like, okay, I understand the idea, like, and the concept that you guys are going for, but like after the first couple of times, like when you're especially when you're like on horseback, and like it's not big enough for like how quickly the
Yeah,
horse goes, so like you have to just like do it like constant, just like spamming
yeah.
the radar button. It gets a
Yeah,
little
it's a bit of a
goofy.
nuisance, yeah. But
Yeah,
it's again, it's a cool little idea that sort of gives the game a little bit of character.
yeah.
That it isn't just like here's a boring map where you can see every town or whatever. And again, like it sort of it rewards talking to people in maps, because or in towns and stuff. Then because they'll talk about specific places, and they'll be sort of marked in the dialogue. And like that's a cool little element of it, but I just think the execution is a little bit clumsy at times. Maybe if it just had a bigger radius, it might be a bit better.
Yeah.
Um,
They did like the
mhm,
Final Fantasy 2 thing where you can like things in dialogue will be highlighted and you can like ask
mm,
for more information about
yeah,
them.
So
the
But yeah,
system is called Ask, is like
yeah,
in a really weird backronym.
yeah. Everything has to be a named system, of course.
Yeah,
But
the what I loved in my meager time playing it is when I was playing through Gallows, and somebody like came up and was like, "What are you up to?" And you're given like three opportunities to kind of like be like, "Oh, nothing. I'm just hanging out." Or you have like the second option is to just be honest. You're just like, "I don't know what to do with my life. I want to leave. Can you help me? I need help." And that person's just like, "I like you. Here's four Heelberries." And I got like a retro achievement for being honest. And it felt that Chivo felt earned, because I was just like, well, it pays to be open with this in this game. And I don't know, it gave the Gallows kind of like, while I was still learning him, a lot of personality. Or it was just like, it'd just be like, all right, Gallows is kind of like, this is a being true to yourself story. I'm fucking into it. Let's go.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
anyways.
I feel like it could be very easy for Gallows to be a bit of a dodgy character, just as the sort of like, um, as a sort of a Native American kind of. I don't want to say pastiche, but it's definitely drawing from that same sort of concept.
yeah,
And
it definitely has like there's like mysticism and
yeah,
like in his family, and his like grandma's like a sage kind of the village,
yeah,
and
and he's
yeah,
supposed to
Mhm.
take over.
yeah,
Like he's supposed to be a priest or whatever.
yeah.
But I think they sort of sidestepped that a little bit when it could have been very dodgy.
Yeah, I
uh,
also, just because his name's Gallows, that's I'm glad they give us the option to rename characters, because I was just like, no, That's not going to be one of my party member names. That's very silly. And I'm glad I did because it's like I'm just a kid named Gallows who wants to be free, and I'm the power of the elements. And I was just like, okay, we can. No, your
He
name's
gets the
Tower now.
he has the weirdest set. All of his tools are doll based. Like uh
Okay.
yeah, all of his tools are doll based. Like the first one he gets is like a little snowman doll that like blows out ice, which you use to like extinguish flames. You get another one that's like that you can use to like push boxes and flip switches. It's just it's weird that they're all like explicitly characterized as dolls when it's like a device to flip switches, a doll, a device to
Yeah.
extinguish flames, a doll. Like dolls do everything in this game.
In the
Like,
Virginia
no other
prologue,
character.
they're just like, here's a duplicator. This is how you
Yeah.
open doors. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I did.
The game's
Okay.
magic key, basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just but like I assume there's some translation stuff there, but
Yeah. Well, not like it is funny now that you mentioned Gallows has all the dolls because like no other character has like themed tools like that. It's not.
Yeah.
They're
Virginia.
not
Yeah.
all
Well,
the same.
Virginia throws the fire as like the card or whatever is like a fire, but not like aimed as a direction like his is or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. But even at that, like Virginia's aren't all tool or her tools aren't all like card based, are they?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
No.
And yeah, it's the same with like Clive, who has the bombs and he has some other stuff as well. But like, yeah, the tools are an interesting notion though. It's cool.
It's nice because it's like it gives a lot of games where it's just like, oh, switch who's walking around. You're like, why would I do that? Like you put either if you have a favorite character or whoever is the protagonist is like that's who's walking first. But you actually have to, yeah, there's like reasons to be constantly like swapping characters around of like who you have out and swapping tools and stuff. And it's not ever to the point that it's breezy. You just hit R2 or L, I can't remember which. You hit like R2 or whatever, and it just brings up the character selection. You can switch characters and tools at the same time, actually.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice.
Yeah, there's a bigger menu as well. Once characters get multiple tools to make it a little bit easier for that as well. Yeah, it's not a bigger menu, but it's like you get a little on-screen pop-up rather than just switching between characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's like it's not too bad as well because a lot of the time different tools, like you can activate a switch with most tools. It's just often finding the right tool for what you're actually specifically needing to do. And sometimes you have like there's a very clever little puzzle earlier on in the game when you first meet the Schrodingers.
Oh God, the switch. You're talking about the switch
The
flip?
ice switch, yeah.
Yeah, the ice switch. Yeah.
And
That
it's such a
took me
clever
an
little thing.
embarrassing amount of time to figure out. That was another one of the modes. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to? They expect me to freeze this thing again? Like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like,
So like just explain to Reese if you haven't done it. You walk into a room and there's a frozen switch, so you unfreeze it and then you activate it. When you try to go through the door, Maya Schrodinger runs in and turns the switch off, and every time you try to do that, she will just continuously do the same thing over and over again until you realize that the trick is to activate the switch and then freeze it again. So that she can't fuck with it.
she comes back in, she like tries to hit it, and then she's just like, oh, and then she just blows past you. Like
she just runs
like,
past you. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
mean-
fine. If you opened it, then I'm going in. Like,
Yeah, it's cool. I like that. Just it doesn't happen very often, but it's just one of those little neat touches that throughout the game that gives it a little bit of character.
yeah, it's always like there's a lot of these puzzles where it's just like you think of just like, oh, I know how to solve this or whatever, but there's like one little step more that like
Yeah.
you need to take that will like sometimes initially frustrate, but then after you figure out, it becomes like, oh my God, like this is ridiculous.
It was almost too simple.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I remember it's actually something that I remember from the first game was there's a part where like you're stuck on this. There's a ledge, like there's this gap. I think it's pretty late in the game, And it's the same sort of thing where like all of your different characters have tools. Like Rudy, in that one, Rudy starts with the bomb. Jack starts with his pet mouse that he can throw at things. Um, I can't remember what Cecilia starts with. If she just has a little thing that like resets the room or something. She has like the worst ones. Um, but you also get a grappling hook, and there's a spot where it's just like there's like a gap and you can't pass it, and like you used the grappling hook much earlier. There's nothing to grapple on, but there's an enemy standing on the other side of it, and you're supposed to shoot the grappling hook into the enemy. and like and he yells like he like yell if I remember like it like he exclaims in pain like when you hit it into them and you talk to him. He's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Like shooting a grappling hook into my leg. Like
That's great. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the battle theme, or sorry, the battle system in the game earlier. So I think we'll listen to some battle music for the next block. So first track we have is Gunmetal Action, which is the one you're going to hear the most. It's the standard battle theme. Then we have the a whirlwind blowing against death. A whirlwind blowing against death, which is if you get ambushed or back attacked. And then we mentioned the Schrodinger family before, so they have their own battle theme, which is called Their Name is Schrodinger Family. And then the last track, which Reese has been looking forward to hearing the name of, is There Are No Inescapable Nightmares, This Reality Shall Not End, which is the final boss theme.
That's incredible. I was saying in the break that I was just excited to learn what these titles names are, because on the thing that on Discord we all watch, it just says there are no escapable nightmares, period. This and cuts off there, and I was like, this what? And yeah, that's definitely a 2 to a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, it's a great a great final boss battle theme name for sure.
Absolutely, and we'll find out. I'll find out if it's a great battle boss theme.
One of my favorite things in a final boss, when you get that sort of the motif of the game coming through, as things start to get a little bit triumphant in it. It works on me almost every time. It's always like it's always a good move, I think, to sort of do that in your final boss theme.
Yeah, I feel like final boss
Absolutely.
they either take like one or two forms, where it's either like the Final Fantasy VII, like eerie, haunting, like the world, yeah, God's about to eat the world, or this, where it's no, the power of friendship is
Yeah,
coming together and about to defeat God.
yeah. Either way, you're fighting God, but
Yeah, well, not yeah, technically like a sleep demon at the end of this one, but yeah, it's
Mm,
you could call it God, I guess.
it's yeah, because like I think once you defeat her, then like the thing she was creating to replace the world or whatever
Yeah,
is the thing you have to fight.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of things. Um,
You can't have a one phase final boss. I mean,
of course, yeah.
No, absolutely not. Can't believe you'd even suggest that.
And I mentioned it during when we were listening to Gunmetal Action, the standard battle theme. Just I love how the tempo of it really matches how your characters are running around in the battle area, and it's throughout the whole game, but just in that in particular is the really really good horns and the like classical guitars and everything. It's such a good sound, and then like the ambush theme, which you don't hear very often. We were also talking about that in the break as well. Just that like it doesn't really happen very often that you do end up being ambushed. But just like it's very similar to Gunmetal Action, but it's a little bit more dark. And it's sort of very evocative of just this sort of like feeling of pressure that you sort of have to react to what's happening. It's a cool little theme.
yeah, for sure. I love the Schrodinger family theme. I mean, I love the Schrodinger family in general. I do want to give a quick shout out to their names. We were also talking about this also. Yeah, yeah, Maya Schrodinger, Alfred Schrodinger, and then their butler is named Todd Dukakis, who fights with a sword, and then their cat, who is definitely a reference to Schrodinger's cat, is named Shady Thousand. And so yeah, you typically have to fight all four of them whenever they're kind of like Maya's kind of like Virginia's like frenemy.
Yeah.
Who's like at first annoyed with her and like get out of my way, you kid, kind of thing. And then as Virginia continues to persist, she's like, okay, you're serious about this. Like, let me give you some tough love.
Yeah.
And they end up actually being somewhat pretty integral to some heavy story beats. So um, it's like a fun group of characters that's like kind of always like just sort of out of the frame, but like very involved in the
Yeah.
story still.
It's always a fun little archetype to have like when you have a group of characters where like you have their opposites on the other side.
Yeah.
And they sort of keep showing up in little boss battles, but like that there's that there's a group that sort of mirrors yours in a lot of ways. And yeah, you just sort of have to deal with them throughout the whole game. But yeah, they do end up sort of tying more into the plot. Because to start the game, you have Janice's gang, who we talked a little bit about, and like the gang themselves sort of become unimportant. They're more or less joke characters. But Janice himself then sort of has a little bit more of a role to play throughout the plot, until he's sort of discarded himself. Then in the end. So yeah, it's nice to have these sort of little roving gangs of drifters that you also have to deal with. It sort of makes the world feel like that you're not the only people who are sort of out looking for treasure and stuff like that. It's a nice little yeah. It's just a nice touch to the game.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to these towns and everyone's just like, "Oh, I heard about this temple. Oh, I heard about this temple. Oh, I heard about this temple." And it's just like, "Oh, more than one group of people went." Like
Yeah, no
yeah,
wonder.
it's fun. Yeah, you bump into them a couple times just like trying to go about your business. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Can I just
Um,
say it's absolutely hilarious that they just let Schrodinger's cat out of the box. Because we're like, oh, is it if the cat's in Schrodinger's box, what could either be a cat or not be a cat? And he was like, no, you said it was a cat. Let the cat out of the box. It doesn't like cats don't like to be in boxes like closed up like that. Then you open up the box and it'll be like, if it sits, it fits. But that is an incredibly funny aspect. I was gonna ask if there was a cat, but it felt like it felt too on the nose. It was just like probably a reference to Schrodinger's cat, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'll find out for myself when I play Wild Arms 3.
yeah. Definitely recommend it if for no other reason than it's not that particularly long. Like as I mentioned, all these games are fairly sort of short as far as RPGs go. They're sort of like 20 to 30 hours, like maybe 40 if you're really completionist.
Well,
So
let's not forget about the Millennium puzzles.
oh fuck no, let's forget about those.
Let's forget about the Millennium puzzles. Because
What-
this game, if you want to be a completionist, is mind-numbingly brutal.
Yeah.
What are the Millennium Puzzles?
The Millennium puzzles are if we recall how we mentioned that there's nothing like you don't find there's nothing actually on the map, like you have to actually like do this AoE ping search everywhere. So one of the things that you can find are these Millennium puzzles. There's a bunch of them all over, and if you do all of them, you get some kind of reward. You get rewards for doing each of them, but I think there's like a larger reward for all of them. If I remember correctly, they are all block pushing puzzles.
Yeah.
It is like 100 rooms of block pushing puzzles. Like
Oh my
just
goodness,
one more complicated than the last.
that's very
Yeah.
funny to me.
And you
Yeah.
can't use the tools, so like you have to manually move them all around. But like the tools, some tools actually let you move blocks from a distance and stuff like that. But no, you actually have to do them like as a standard block pushing puzzle. It's fucking yeah. I think I've done like 10 of them, and all you get for them is
Like an
an item that partially lets you unlock stuff. Um, so like there's basically like when you beat the game, you have what are called X file keys or EX file keys that allow you to unlock stuff for the new game, and unlock like museums stuff and like a bunch of other stuff you can unlock. But like most of those cost multiple EX file keys. So like you have to do like 100 puzzles or however many puzzles there are. I don't even remember the exact amount. And like you do get decent rewards for doing them individually, but then the last thing you get is just this one file key that's like that will unlock half of a new game plus thing. It's like it feels a little bit shitty. Yeah, I never bothered with the new game plus in this actually. I come to think of it.
Oh no, yeah. But
Yeah.
the Millennium puzzles are like this game's like dodge 100 lightning bolts or kill Ruby weapon, like whatever. It's this game's just like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to have a bad time? There's a challenge you can do.
Do I? I'd love to have a bad time. Oh, let's push the 10,000 boxes
a lot
around.
of
Oh,
boxes.
pogging.
Yeah, and there are some cool
16-year-old me
like
is freaking out.
there are some cool like secret bosses and stuff in this game as well that you can access once you get the airship, because of course there's an airship, and it's one of the cooler airships. I won't sort of spoil too much what it is, but I really like the design of that airship.
I think the final boss from the first game is actually an optional boss in this name. What's his name? God, I can't remember. I think he's a repeating boss. I think he's in a bunch of them, but I think he's like the final boss from one is in is one of the optional bosses in this. But that's like kind of one of the other things. There's like some repeat. That's more of like a Final Fantasy thing of like there's like big bad baddies that are go from like game to game.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like your ruby weapons or your Gilgameshes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Gilgamesh. Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll jump into the last block of tracks here. So I have just another sort of mishmash of different teams and stuff like that. So I have Lost in the Darkness, Lost to the Darkness, Fate Breaker. This weight is the weight of life. This meaning is the meaning of living. Elegy for the villains, and only the night sky knows, which I will actually talk about a little bit afterwards because I think it's again one of those really really good little touches in this game. Yeah, so I mentioned I was going to talk about that. So before the podcast earlier on today, I did post a link to that little video, and I just when you save the game and quit, you get this little video that plays, and it's really lovely. It's just like it's just some sort of like art of the characters, and you see some stats of your gameplay so far, like how many times you saved, how long you've played for, things like that, and you just get this little sort of wind down as you finish the game. And I really enjoy sort of at the end of my play sessions for the game, just sort of going to save and quit and just letting that play out.
I'm glad you mentioned it because it was something I don't think I would have bothered with. Actually pushing, because it seems like, I don't know, like it often seems like a little bit of a silly question for my ADHD mind.
Yeah,
Because I'm just like, no, I've saved. I'm turning this thing off. I'm unplugging it from the wall by shooting it with a gun. Like I'm gonna hard power off as sharply as possible. But it is kind of like just a lovely little come down of just like, where just another thing, it's the details that I noticed, or you pointed out. Yeah, I didn't notice it. Are remarkable and just charming, so wonderful. And I think that those are the sort of things that are like make for a more compelling narrative, a more compelling experience.
yeah,
Like a
makes you
bit of a
care about the characters. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. A little bit of a tangent, but I am a TV tropes wiki hater. Seems like the era of that has long passed, but still, when people are like, "Oh, this is the friend betrayal trope," and then this is this to that trope, it's like I always feel like I'm just like, no, that's not what makes these things compelling. It's not like like you don't need to just break it down like that. It's stuff like the outro videos where it just like sets a mood and sets a compelling expositional experience. And as you connect with the characters, which is, the heart of any narrative.
Hmm. And I suppose in combination with the intros as well, you get that sort of that effect of, like, I guess watching an episode of an anime.
They
And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, they do something interesting with the intro in this game. It doesn't play when you start the game. It basically kicks you right to the
Just right to that
start
train
screen,
scene. Yeah.
right to the start screen where there's like a music playing and it's like press start and then it like does some gameplay demo stuff or whatever, and then like you hit start and you load your game. And then it starts playing the intro video, and it
Yeah.
does it every
Lovely.
time you load your game.
Yeah.
It's
And
an
it
interesting
changes
choice,
through the
but
game as well. Like
yeah,
I
it
think there's
does.
8 different versions. So like depending on where you are in the game,
Oh, that's
there's
so
different
cool.
Yeah.
there's different lyrics, there's different visuals. Like it's a really cool little thing. Just because as you go through the game, you just get to see a little bit more. And again, it's similar to like watching an anime, as the intro will change as more plot stuff happens.
Yeah, it solves the problem too of a lot of like, oh, I don't want to watch the game intro because it's going to show me characters I don't know yet, or like scenes that I haven't seen yet and potential spoilers or whatever. So like as you get this like evolving one or whatever, it's more geared towards, I think, what you've actually seen and done.
Yeah, what you've seen so far in the game.
Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah,
touch.
yeah, it's really good. And again, like a game full of nice touches. Like, it's not the best game on the system, not the best RPG on the system. Like, there's games with better plots, games with like more in-depth battle systems and so forth. But like, I think just in terms of pure charm, I don't think there's a game that sort of is up there for me. The only other game I can think of that really is a comfort game for me, the same way this is probably like Dark Cloud 2.
Another
It's just like
cel-shaded game.
and another cell shaded game, yeah. I wonder if there's a connection there, but just yeah, those two games really for me, they have such a there's such a nice vibe to them, and that like it overcomes a lot of their shortcomings. That because they always there's like it feels like a person just sort of made the effort to do this sort of little extra step just so that you'd have a nice time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's always nice. But
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll probably wrap up with that, I reckon. So Scott, have you anything you want to plug? Anything you got going on?
Not at the moment, unfortunately. But do feel free to find me all around the internet. I am on Blue Sky these days at srr.dev. You can also find me at my website srr.dev. Uh, yeah, no, that's about it. I'm thinking more about getting back into some web development stuff these days and some side projects there, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for me.
Very cool. Reese, what you got going on at the moment?
Not a whole lot. Follow Scott. That's my plug.
Yeah.
My link
So
tree is in the description. I just follow Scott on Blue Sky.
excellent. All right. So yeah, and as for ourselves, we're CRT Sound System on Patreon. You can support us there for bonus episodes and higher bitrate episodes. You don't have to support us as well for the bonus episodes, so you can actually just go and log on to Patreon and listen to them. Even if you're not able to give us any money, that's cool. You can still listen to those bonus episodes, and I'm really happy with how those generally turn out. So definitely check them out. You can also get them on the Spotify feed if you search for CRT Sound System Patreon feed. You'll be able to see a separate feed for that, and you don't have to be a subscriber as before. You can just follow that feed to get the bonus episodes directly in Spotify. Or on all the other services. Do us a solid and give us a review if you're able to. We definitely appreciate that as well. Come join us in the Discord. We're nice and chill. We'd all like to hang out in there and talk about Jamiroquai. And yeah, come on the pod if you've got any soundtrack you want to talk about, or anything at all. We'd love to facilitate that for you.
Sick. Yeah, absolutely. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So the last track we have is just the actual ending theme is just called Wings. And yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Reese, and good night.